Hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Rising from Our Roots. I'm your host, Amber Draper. Rising from Our Roots is the newest talk show on TMN Television that highlights individuals who are currently involved in movements or organizations that have historically advocated the empowerment of people based on their race, personal development, and even their academic success. Our first episode today is about the Divine Nine. There are 9 internationally Greek-lettered fraternities and sororities that are historically African American, and together they are referred to as the Divine Nine. Each sorority and fraternity has a deep history as to why they were established, and although we only have 2 active fraternities and no sororities of the 9 on campus, both Alpha Phi Alpha and Phi Beta Sigma have had a deep impact on the student life here on Truman's campus. So first, let's take a look back at how it all started.
We are the brothers of the A. We are the brothers of the Phi. We are the brothers of the...
Alpha Phi Alpha was the first of the Divine Nine to be established at Cornell University, and it originally started to uphold brotherly support for minority students because of the racial prejudice Black students faced while attending the institution. However, moving beyond the student life at Cornell University, the organization has also stood at the forefront of helping with inequalities and injustices against Blacks throughout American history. Many of their members led the civil rights movement and support other establishments such as the NAACP. Some famous Alpha members include Martin Luther King, Lionel Richie, and Stuart Scott.
My piece of happiness, I'm gonna give it to Alpha.
My brothers,
Yeah.
what we came to do,
We came to step like...
Phi Beta Sigma was 6th of the 9 to be founded in 1914, and their founders created the organization at a time when Blacks were only seen as second-class citizens. But despite the challenges, they successfully established the organization with the goals of cultivating brotherhood, scholarship, and service. Due to the recent killings of Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, and Eric Gardner, the organization has promoted a new message, "I am my brother's keeper," showing awareness to the issues affecting men of color. Some famous Sigma members include Bill Clinton, Reverend Al Sharpton, and Jerry Rice.
if you ain't class Sigma, you ain't what the fuck. You got the class.
Altogether, the Divine Nine is comprised of 9 fraternities and sororities: Alpha Phi Alpha, Alpha Kappa Alpha, Kappa Alpha Psi, Omega Psi Phi, Delta Sigma Theta, Phi Beta Sigma, Zeta Phi Beta, Sigma Gamma Rho, and Iota Phi Theta. All are historically African American, but they each have their own ideals and significant historical facts as to why they were created. The cultural aspect is what keeps everyone united, and being a part of NPHC is something most members take honor being a part of for the rest of their lives. Although we do not currently have all 9 on campus, most of them have had student membership at some point throughout the years at Truman. I had a chance to interview 2 members of the Divine Nine, Waymon White, who crossed Alpha Phi Alpha, and Blake Miller, who is a member of Phi Beta Sigma. So here we are with 2 members of NPHC. We have Waymon White and we have Blake Miller. I just want to thank you guys so much for coming on the show with me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem.
So my first question for you guys is, what stood out to you the most about being an Alpha or being a Sigma that made you decide that you wanted to be a part of that organization?
I would definitely say the point where I definitely knew I wanted to be an Alpha was when I had came back from my trip from New York. I had went on a college tour, and we had went on a lot of colleges on the East Coast. And I came back, and my counselor, who was an Alpha, and the assistant principal, who was an Alpha, and like I always shut them down because I always thought like I was gonna be nothing in life. I was just gonna be the average Joe, locked up at 18 or something like that. I didn't really have higher standards or goals for myself, but they always saw potential in me, and I was just like, I don't understand, like, what do you see in me? And as they continue to see potential in me, I started gaining more confidence in myself. But not only as they continue to push me, they also continue to push other young African American males in my school. And I was just like, that's just amazing. And just looking at it, I didn't have a father figure, and most of these young men in my high school, they didn't have a father figure as well. And I was very involved in sports like basketball, football, and I ran track. And like they were always at my games when my mother or my dad, he really never came. So it was just like wow, they really believe in me and they want to see me do well. And it was just like, hey, once I graduate college, I want to do that for another African American male or 2 or 3, and help them get out of the neighborhood and stuff that I came from.
Right.
It's really good. Yeah, like unlike Waymon, I really didn't have like that exposure to the MPAC when I was in high school. Like even when I came to Truman, the only reason why I really found out about it was when they had the step show, and then my mentor was an alpha. So I really had to, do my research on the fraternity. And I think it was 2 things about Phi Beta Sigma. One was the service that they really pushed in their organization, and 2, I really felt that God was leading me in that direction. Since I don't really like to, party and drink and stuff like that, I think when I was looking for an organization, I was really, caught by the fact that when I, researched Phi Beta Sigma, it really stood out as like one big service organization, and culture for service, service for humanity, brotherhood, scholarship, service. I really saw that as a big thing. And then the symbolism with Phi Beta Sigma, like things like the 12-inch rule, and it's dove being a big symbol really showed me that, man, I can really, be myself in this organization. Different people is very diverse and things like that really made me feel like being in this organization, I could be who I want to be and also make a big difference on campus.
Speaking of making a big difference on campus, what event or events have you guys put on that you think best represents your fraternity and what they stand for?
I think for Alpha, it definitely has to be our voteless people, is a hopeless people, and for like a week straight, we get voters registration cards and stand out in front of the sub or in the quad, and we give people like snowballs or ice cream or something like that to get them registered to vote. And then also we have our Brothers Keeper, where we kind of help mentor youth, and I feel like that's a big part and a huge step for Alpha, because without Alpha's kind of mentoring me, like I kind of wouldn't be here, and I probably would have went to the wrong direction.
All right, so I guess like as far as social action, our biggest thing has been our hashtag Chalked on Arm event that we put on, I think maybe a few semesters ago in the fall, where we really brought the campus together to really do something peaceful, to really raise awareness of the amount of police brutality that has went on. Because one thing that we really noticed is that social media is what made, the Michael Brown situation really big, but there were so many other, other people who were harmed by policemen that weren't noted. So through that, it was like, we had a list of people, and then people went around chalking bodies and writing their names and the dates and stuff like that, and we put it on social media and hashtagged it, and we're really hoping to push that to other schools so they can do it on their campuses as well. And as far as like philanthropy, our biggest thing is the March of Dimes, which is our national philanthropy. So we do our stroll-a-thon, which is really, fun time to get out and stroll, give the campus something that they've never seen. And it also raises visibility, because not only do we stroll, the Alphas can come stroll, the Kappas can come stroll, and things like that. So it's just a fun time to raise money and then, have fun and really show people what are some of the fun parts of MPAC.
So for those who are unfamiliar with stepping and strolling, could you guys just give a brief rundown of what that is?
I think stepping and strolling is just like really definitely like a cultural thing, something that we just developed. Stepping definitely started like way back in Africa with where they used to do things with like grabbing barrels and bins and then just really doing it. And that's really something that we brought over to America and our organization. And strolling was probably just another way for, just to dance and have fun. In parties is probably a way to even stay out of trouble as well. You instead of like getting on girls or doing something you're not supposed to do, you with your brothers and together strolling, and it's basically just kind of dancing, walking, in a line together around the party,
I mean, I think he just hit it on the head. Okay.
So along with strolling and stepping, that's probably one of the unique things that makes the Divine Nine different from other Greek organizations. But along with that, not only does the Divine Nine as a whole kind of unite minority college students together, but they've also supported national organizations that kind of advocate the rights and equalities for minorities. So what do you think that says about the Divine Nine as a whole and what they stand for?
We're very outward focused, you know, like we were developed of the mindset first when we were first created of having a brotherhood of us because we weren't always accepted in other people due to discrimination and segregation. So when we created, we really had a social action mindset of we want to change the world.
Yeah, I kind of want to agree with Blake. Like the whole reason, like we kind of started because we weren't allowed into other fraternities, so we kind of created our own. And back in the day, you know, it was very segregated. So for us to come together as brothers or sororities, to kind of come together and help us like own something, and from that evolve into like giving back to the community.
So because Truman is, in general, a small campus, the Alphas, you guys only have 3 members, and the Sigmas, you guys only have 2. Do you think your experience here was better or worse than you expected, given the fact that it's not an HBCU or even a school that is diverse compared to other universities?
I feel like if I were to went to a HBCU, my experience would be better because I would have more brothers, more numbers to do more things, whereas me on this campus, it's only 3 of us. It's only so much that we can do. Like we don't have those number of 60 people in a fraternity that we can kind of divvy out like all different responsibility. It's just like, you know, 3 people in mine and 2 in his. So we actually have to do every single little thing. And that kind of takes away from some things from like, you know, exposure to parties or events and stuff like that. So it's only kind of setting us back. But as far as the experience here at Truman, I kind of love it and embrace it because in high school and my entire life, I grew up around 99.9% of all, you know, blacks. So to kind of switch that transition into it kind of being now I'm only around maybe 20% blacks. I guess it was a huge culture shock, but at the same time, I learned a lot from coming out my element.
I would have to say, like, since I didn't really know much about, you know, in PhD before coming to Truman, I didn't really have expectations. But like but actually getting to know my brothers who do go to Lincoln, I definitely say that like, you know, the fun things as far as like parties and step shows would be a lot more alive and things like that because, you know, that there's more people. And here, when we throw a party or a step show, it's mostly black, but we don't have that many. But when you go there, it's mostly black, so everybody gonna come out, so that's gonna be a lot more fun. And also, like Waymon said, like completing our goals. You know, like me and Jesse have more goals as far as like what we want to do with our organization, but you know, one person wants to work on the pageant and one person has to work on intake while one person is trying to graduate all at the same time, so there's really only so much that you can do. So definitely going to a campus where they have more members, you can definitely get everything that you want finished.
Right. So despite those difficulties, how do you make the most of your experience here?
You just have to go with the flow. And I know in the NPHC, we all have this kind of same motto of like kind of no excuses. Like you got to take what you have and you have to go with it and push forward and fight with it. So NPHC is a no excuses motto. Like, hey, you know, get it done if you want something to happen.
Yeah, I think it's just to make the most of it. You just got to do what you can, and then you can't complain because even though people may want to see more and expect more, you know, they're not in your organization and they're not going through what you're going through. So the best you can do is just give it all you got.
Right. And like you came here when there weren't any Sigmas, and Waymon, you came here when there were Alphas. How many were there?
Where it was Rob, Ward. It was about 3 to 4, and one who was about to cross my fall semester as a freshman.
Okay. So even given those small numbers, and even though there weren't any Sigmas here, you guys still felt that it was worth going through the process and being a part of these organizations?
Definitely. And my whole point for kind of continuing to pursue Alpha was because the same brotherhood and intelligence and personality that I had experience with those members in my high school were the same type of people I was experiencing with here in college. Like they spoke well, dressed well. They was always about the community. I felt around myself that brotherly love. So it's just like something I wanted to continue. And the main thing was that they always wanted to give back to the community. And I'm a huge advocate, for giving back to the community. Just like, hey, I just want to continue to be a part of that.
Yeah, I think for me it was big because since I didn't, come in with the mindset of, I want to, be in the MPAC org, like me doing research, like even with the IFC orgs around the campus and a lot of them going into like the fraternities that are in MPAC, like really like made me research them. And like I think a big thing was really just knowing the history behind it, and then knowing that that when even if I'm one person or two person, I'm really a part of something bigger. Like this is for life, people graduating at 60 years old, 70 years old, still talking about their organization, and I just really want to be able to carry on the legacy because not only am I like, the first to maybe even graduate, I'm definitely like the first in the Greek organization.
Right. And Blake, you mentioned that people who are even in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, really take pride in being in a fraternity or sorority that is a part of Divine Nine. I have family members who it has definitely affected them and made their experience in college and throughout life. A lot of their friends that they have were their sorority sisters and their brothers. So I guess my question for you is, how has being a part of these organizations changed you, and what have you learned from it?
I would definitely say joining this fraternity helped me become a better man in general. Like I had said before, I didn't have any father figures or mentors to kind of looked over me, and those men in college did an absolute fabulous job with me, and I literally wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them. And based on seeing that brotherhood and them seeing potential in me and do something great. And then when I came on campus and the Alphas kind of took me under their wing because I was kind of familiar with Alphas from my past school. But I would definitely say, they helped me become a man and gave me man characteristics and traits.
I think first, the process teaches you a lot because through that, you really learn about the values of the organization that are really values that you should have been practicing from your born days, really values that really teach you how to carry yourself, how to treat other people, and how to be a leader. And another thing is the elders in the organization that are really wise, and you meet them when you go to regional conferences and stuff like that. They're about to teach you, and they tell you about finances and business or how to get through tough situations in college, or how to, run your organization when you have minimal amount of people. It's really taught me how to be a leader, and it's really taught me ways of life and then things I need to learn.
Right. So given the history of the Divine Nine, how does that correspond with Black History Month?
I think the history of it. I think in these organizations, I think it's really, college is important. And then a big thing about college, and definitely HBCUs, is joining, a Black Greek-led organization. So I think, and then the history dates back to hundreds of years. They were founded in 1906, us in 1914. So it's that's history. That's been a long time. So us doing things having this interview right now or step show is really just a reflection on what we've been doing for the past, 100 or something years.
So even though you guys are all a part of the Divine Nine, is there still competition among the organizations to be the best?
Definitely, yes. Definitely. And I feel like it's a good thing because I'm gonna always give 110% to outbeat him at every single thing, whether it's a pageant, a party, events, or whatever. And I feel like me giving 110% is going to push him even further to, better push his events. And at the same time, if I'm pushing myself and he's pushing himself to beat me, it's only at the end it's going to help the community. That's what it's all about. So if I push myself to put on a pageant, a party, whatever it may be, event, and he do the same, the only person who's benefited out of this is the community. That's what NPAC is all about, is giving back to the community.
Yeah, and then just to add to that, a big thing about it is knowing that, your competition is very, healthy competition. And then the way you learn that is just through maturity, when we, I always tell, when, our pageant girls, when we do a pageant, the beauty of it is that, not only are we both pushing each other to put on a good pageant. You know, things are different. You know, when we stroll, you know, we're trying to stroll the best, but our strolls are different. You know, like our steps are different. What we say is different. And then the fact that, you know, we're going hard, it's just like, it attracts people because it really just shows how, you know, even with like little amount of people, you still embrace your organization. And I think that's what makes people really want to be a part of, you know, NPAC.
Okay. Do you guys have any messages for young men or even young women who are thinking about joining a Greek life organization?
My message would be definitely do your research and don't be in a hurry to pledge. Take time to research each and every fraternity and sorority that you are going to look into. Fill out the members in that fraternity and make sure like it's a right fit for you.
I would say first, like, make sure that when you're thinking about pledging that you're doing it for the right reasons. Definitely. Second, make sure you have a strong mind because, you know, there's positives and negatives that come with it. Because, you know, when you join the organization, there's others and there's going to be competition, and then you're going to need to have like a strong mind to be mature to those situations and understand that, you know, it's all for fun and it's all for, you know, the show and the embracing of your organizations. And then lastly, I would say to just love your letters, go out and then do what your organization really wants to see you do on campus, and really be a face, be something that somebody can look up to. And if you think that you can do that and be a good leader, then definitely join it because, you know, you're the type of person that we're looking for.
So question. So with Alpha having 3 and Sigma's having 2, so let's say a group of 5 people wanted to join your fraternity, but they were trying to join for the wrong reason. Would you allow them to be in your fraternity even though you guys have really low numbers?
I think there's see, that's a question that gets like
let's just say like all they wanted was just to party.
Yeah,
and, you know,
I think I don't know if I would want this to be on camera, but like 2 things is like first, I think if you're joining it for the wrong reasons, that's gonna show throughout the process. And then another one is like but if you make it through the process, you know, into what it entails, and then we're going to learn more about you, and then by the time that you're done, you probably won't be wanting to join it for the wrong reasons no more if you really learned about what the organization's values and goals really are.
Me, I'm very prideful for like the reason I joined. That's like to, you know, help the community out and give back. Like I didn't join just to, you know, turn up at the parties or, you know, stroll or, you know, like that. Like that wasn't my main focus. So for someone to come to my fraternity and want to be a part of my fraternity and my brotherhood, and for me to call them my brother, and all they cared about was partying and strolling, I feel like we have different values and we're going in 2 different directions. So I wouldn't be open to letting them in. I don't. You know.
I think that's a big thing because I remember like when I first like had my interest, like I went to Rob about it, who was an alpha here, and then like me being a freshman, like my mind is just focused on the wrong things. I'm like, man, I want to be, you know, cool, you know, if I join, you know, this fraternity, everybody's gonna know me. I'm gonna be at the parties. I'm gonna get all the girls and things like that. And then what he said was, he said, well, if that's what you want to do, then you may want to look more towards IFC. And then I went on break and really thought about that. And then that's when I started my research and said, nah, man, I really want to, you know, be a part of this. Like, this is some rich history, you know. But this, like, I'm only thinking about partying and girls, like, but this is going to be for life. You know, the values that they have are strong in every organization, and it's just really going to be something powerful. Whether it's 1 or 10 members, you're going to be doing something powerful.
Do you guys think that you're living up to the expectations and goals that your founders wanted your fraternities to stand up for?
I feel like I'm living up to the expectation because as much as I can, no matter if I'm busy with schoolwork or any other things, I'm always focused on giving back to the community, scholarship, brotherhood, and love for all mankind. You know, at the end of the day, that's all I'm focusing about. And, you know, just me growing up in a rough neighborhood and seeing the things that I saw, I vowed to myself that I was go back to the community and, you know, help pull someone else out. So.
Yeah, and I think our founders really set out for us brotherhood, scholarship, and service. And I think one thing that me and Jesse really want to be able to do more is like increase like our brotherhood, because since we are at are at Truman and we're far away and it's only 2 of us, and we really haven't really been able to like travel as much as we wanted to. So that's one thing that like we feel like we want to work on. But on campus, scholarship in the service, we really try to do that with him like playing football, as well as, you know, keeping his grades up, me, you know, getting ready to graduate, and also being in other organizations, serving as president of other organizations, us having internships and things like that. And then Culture for Service and Service for Humanity, which is our biggest one, doing things like the stroll-a-thon to raise money for March of Dimes, or penny rewards to raise money for St. Jude, or going out to nursing homes and things like that as well.
So my final question for you guys is, before you graduate, as an Alpha and as a Sigma, what impact do you want to leave on Truman's campus?
I think the biggest thing is just really, I want people to understand not only what our organization stands for, but why we did it and why we went so hard and why MPAC is important. So like having, you know, interviews like this, as well as having like forums where we give the history of us and step shows and things like that, we really want them to not focus on the fun of it, but focus on why we were created, why we feel that it's important, and why like when we get our letters, you know, it's for life, you know, what makes us want to hold on to it for so long.
I think mine would be is that I did the most I could to give back to the community, no matter if it was throwing a party, a pageant, helping someone, you know, go to class or anything, giving back to the community, just anything in general. But overall, I want the community to kind of recognize that we must give back to the community for us to grow and succeed. And that's what the main purpose of NPAC and just all NPAC orgs is about, giving back to the community, making us stronger, and us sticking together to better ourselves.
So thank you, Waymon, and thank you, Blake, for coming on. I think you guys had some really powerful insight about your organizations.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, no doubt.
Thank you all so much for tuning into the first episode of Rising from Our Roots. We all have people before us that have paved the way for future generations, and with the current men of Alpha Phi Alpha and Phi Beta Sigma, and with all the current members who are a part of the Divine Nine, their founders did that by creating a sisterhood and a brotherhood between African Americans when they weren't getting that at their institutions simply because they were people of color. We have a lot more in store, and you can look forward to future episodes when I look into the roots of jazz music and even the military. Make sure you tune in next time, and never forget to keep your dreams alive by continuing to rise from your roots.